One reason it's important to actually study the evolutionary origins of, say, our economic troubles and so on, is that oftentimes when we learn some behavior or some bias is built in by natural selection, it means it's actually really hard to overcome. So, it's really hard to convince people that cheesecake doesn't inherently kind of taste good, right? Sugary, fatty things are just built in by natural selection. We're going to like them. By the same token, it's really hard to convince people, not to flinch when there's kind of some moving object coming at your head or, some scary spider or so on. These are these kinds of biases that are built in via natural selection. They're pretty old, and they're also really hard to turn off, even when we're aware of them. The problem in the economic domain is, my guess is that the biases we're seeing in us and in monkeys are going to be equally hard to turn off. But these are ones that it's hard to even be aware of how strong they are. So I think one of the important things about seeing these kinds of errors in monkeys is just not only are they old, but they're going to be really hard to get over. So policies that try to deal with these biases might be well served to say, look, let's just assume these biases are in place, and how can we design policies that can accept them and sort of deal with them as they are. One thing we're really interested in is whether monkeys have the opportunity to think twice, right? We can, experience this bias and succumb to it, but we can also be very meta about it and think about, I can talk to you now about these biases. The monkeys probably aren't, sitting around in the forest talking to each other about the kinds of economic biases they have. So the fact that we can kind of think twice, pause, kind of inhibit the sort of prepotent or the sort of instinctual bias, that gives us a weapon against these sorts of biases. But in some sense, we have to know they're there in the first place to actually implement these kind of, wait, let me stop, pause, think about it, and try to come up with the right decision. So I think awareness that we have these biases in these everyday situations and that we're really affected by them is actually very important.